Vanguards are taking the spotlight with tower dropping later this month and needing defensive options, but what if we turn them into massive damage dealers instead? Cosmic here, welcome to the channel, and today is finally the time to highlight some Vanguards in Chaos Zero Nightmare, and no, there's no Cassius that's going to be used for today. Now, yes, the main focus is going to be Maribell, and I know that she is a fan favorite for her big shields, but she can also do a lot of damage in the right setups. Now, for the more veteran players, I'll have a quick character review sheet for epiphanies, and if you find this type of breakdown helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future character guides. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about which chaos to farm, a overview for each of the characters, and then of course a final showcase at the very end, so you know how to build out and how to play this team comp. But before we get into the characters, there is one thing that I do want to talk about, that if you are someone who wants to min-max and truly get the most out of this build, well, there is one particular item that you're really going to want, and I will just say up front right now, I have still not found this item, and because it comes from a rare event that you will need to search out, but the Corrupted Core, which happens to drop in the rare node that is in the interior, it gives you a retain of plus 20% shield. As you're playing this build and as you're looking for this item in particular, you'll find out that there are going to be multiple turns that you go through and realize that, hey, if I had a way to stack up my shields turn over turn, I would be able to more consistently push out damage instead of being this a all-in one-turn kill build. Now, of course, the downside here is that when we are farming Zero system, instead of doing Laboratory Zero on a higher difficulty, right? When we try to find the right nodes, when we find the right difficulty, one of the downsides for Zero system, well, two downsides ultimately, right, is always going to be, one, you're going to most likely be stuck with a lower value of save data, which does hurt out quite a bit, but also you'll notice for the rare fate chance, a lot of these are going to be lower. Like, you might get a tier 12, but then it only has a 10% increase for the rare fate incurrence. So there is this kind of draw back and forth between the two of these. I'm not sure if I even have some other examples here where this one's also 30, but here you go. Example for the blue pot, it goes down to 20, or in some cases, as I was re-rolling this while streaming, it goes all the way down to 10 for some of those higher. So you do have to either get insanely lucky or just run this a bunch of times until you find that one piece. So that is one downside I will say here, but Foretold Ruin is going to be the best option overall if you're really trying to go all in on that sustain ability and making sure you're getting the shields for the damage, but that'll make more sense as we show off the showcase later on towards the end of the video. I just wanted to highlight this up front because it's one thing that I searched for myself and ultimately just kind of gave up on because I didn't want to, I wanted to test this, at least get a foundation of the build understood, and then go back and refine it more. So yes, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about Maribell, and yes, I want to flag up front that my characters do have E5, E6, what have you unlocked, but you don't really need to have a high dupe count for these characters. The most notable one, of course, is going to be Maribell, because when we get into her Manifest Ego, her E1 does give you a significant damage increase for the Shelter Strike, which is, of course, the main build focus of the build for today. So the rest of these don't really matter as much because, again, one of the key things that we have to stress is that for Shelter Strike, it is fixed damage. This means it's not going to get buffed by defense. It's not going to be buffed directly by HP or anything like that. The only thing that we can really use to impact this is going to be things like the passion weakness or passion percent damage. So I just want to kind of rip the band-aid off now and talk about the memory fragments. If you saw it up front, yes, I do have to be very serious that this is going to be the ideal setup for Maribell, and I realize how awkward this is going to be, but do keep in mind that we are trying to build her as a damage dealer, but also I did test this, that the passion damage does increase the damage from the effect. So we all know that the critical damage is going to be the best for the 2-slot here, but then when we think about what other things can we use to really boost up the damage, then yes, it is going to be the Conqueror set because it gives us an additional 35% crit damage on top of it. Now, the downside that I will mention to this, that if you are someone who truly wants to min-max this, get perfect stats and all that stuff, well, the only thing that really matters is, of course, making sure you have your crit chance because, of course, we want to crit, right? And crit damage is really good, but when we go beyond that and we think about, okay, well, what substats do we want? You do still want to have HP and defense for your substats because that's going to boost up your more normal turns, right? Like Maribell is still going to be using her cards to generate shields and then have Shelter Strike deal some damage. So just to talk about our build overall, yes, I was running Foretold Ruin, so one of the other nice things that you can get out of it, in case you do miss out on Corrupted Core, is Consecrated Halo, which is going to drop from the final boss, which is just a flat shield increase, which of course is really nice. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get the right item because, of course, as I just mentioned, Cube is not going to boost Sheltered Strike because it is purely fixed damage. However, there is a item from Foretold Ruin that gives you plus 20% shield for your effects, which would then boost things like this Relentless Endurance that I have. So there is at least an item you can use. Now, again, on the other side, because Obsidian Sword is a multiplicative bonus that you get in increasing your damage, this now does work for the Shelter Strike being a main damage dealer. So you really do have to min-max this a little bit more in terms of which pieces that you're looking for. But as I showcased in the very quick overview, the overall theme here is still going to be the same. We are going to want a lot of upgrades that are going to thin out the deck. One really nice thing to note here is the OIC upgrade, because this actually does do quite a bit of damage once you refine the deck, once you get a bunch of shielding, which is nice. But ultimately, all of this is going to build up for Maribell being the, well, it is going to give you the more big combo turn payoff, as you saw in the opener, or it's going to give you just okay shielding and some counterattacks and some chip damage to eventually kill the boss. Now, you might be wondering, well, how do we really get there then? What other types of characters are we using to get the most out of this? And then, believe it or not, it is time to bring back Amir. Now, Amir is going to be your more traditional Vanguard in this style of build, because you want to build defense, you want to build shields and all that stuff. But what is really important to note here instead is going to be her ego skill, and this is really what brings everything together. Now, this is one part I will stress, that for her dupes, there is, I think it's E4 that gives you the plus 50 gain shield per metalize on top of this. However, and I'll include an image here just really quickly, as I was going through this and as I was just trying to test this and get stacks, for where my build is currently at, I get the max value at about 35 stacks, but as I was doing the boss, I was going up to 60 stacks. So I don't think that as long as you have the, I don't think it's gonna be a limit, right? As long as you have the right divines where you need them, you have the right pieces for like Eternal Hunger, you're cycling through your deck, I don't actually think this is a downside. Like, I think you should be able to do this with Amir for having a very low copy for her egos. Now, I will state, otherwise, like getting this E1 just to remove this as a finale to give you that one turn of survivability is really nice. But otherwise, like, sure, if we get to E6 where you're able to just get a free stack every turn, that's really nice. And then this E4 is what I was talking about, where it increases her overall shield gain that you're going to get. Again, keeping in mind that, as I just mentioned, as you're going to see later in the showcase, that you do get enough stacks just by going through your deck normally. Now, for her, the thing I want to stress is we talk about the actual save data. And I did build this out in Laboratory 0. I did just kind of go through the process of trying to just get a usable save. This one actually surprised me quite a bit, but this particular version of Metal Extraction, this does work for other skill cards, so it does combo very well with Nia. Spoiler, Nia is the last character we have, but the most important thing to note is that when you're trying to do a build like this, where you're going to have Eternal Hunger and we're going to use Adagio for Nia, you want to have some type of draw card that can then start the cycle again, draw the Eternal Hunger off the top of the deck, which is going to chain into itself and draw you an additional card later on down the road, all the while giving you all the AP that you need to cycle through this overall combo. Now, the one downside I will say about Amir, and I know that's just, it's nice to have her here, is that her other epiphanies just, well, they aren't good. There's no sugarcoating it. They're just bad. Now, I will say that for Full Metal Hurricane, just getting any neutral epiphany is just fine. Maybe there's like a resolve one, maybe there's an AP one. None of her actual epiphanies for this upgrade matter. This one I do just like taking the giving stacks of vulnerable because it was the neutral one that popped up. I will also say that if you do find that you have enough min-maxing, you can try to go the distance and make use out of this Full Metal Hurricane. The downside, again, is that it does decrease by 2 every single turn, so you have to have a super optimized deck to really get the most out of this, to make sure that you're getting your metallization stacks high enough to enable the full combo. So this is the, if you are someone who wants to spend dozens of hours truly min-maxing, getting this to be absolutely perfect because every card removal counts, right, in terms of upgrades, then sure, you could use this version, but for the 99% of people, I would just strongly recommend avoiding it completely and really just honing in on the other pieces. Now, hovering metal, I know a lot of people are going to say to take the upgrade version instead. Honestly, I really hated that one. If you, again, are optimized enough and you have like, oh, I have all the divines, I have the double adagio, then sure, you can take the upgrade because I've found out in testing that I can pretty easily get this to be active on turn 5, where I don't really need this extra copy of hovering metal because this version of metal extraction did so much for us. But again, that goes more into the absolute min-maxing. You've had a ton of time to test this. You got your rib cages, which I will mention here once again that yes, one of the downsides I found out while putting all of this together is that you do have your shields being capped by 2x of your health total. So you will actually get a benefit for your memory fragments and having your HP variants instead. And just for what I had access to, a lot of these either have ego recovery or I guess this one does have health. I could swap to it in real time. But this is a case where I had got stuck on just not having good enough memory fragments and wanting to have enough health because we have both the sixth option here that does have the health on it, but there is also a gear, the rib cage, which gives you even more health to stack up, which means you can have even more damage off of your shelter strike. So I fully believe that assuming I got a double crit, assuming that I got better stats on our Maribell for being our damage dealer, I have no problem believing that we should be easily able to clear 35 or 40k damage in a turn, because also I would really like to see a third copy of Shelter Strike, meaning I'm probably going to take this character back into Laboratory 0 to get a full 160 memory fragments and just try to refine her deck that way. So I think there's even higher that we can go in terms of the damage potential. And then last but not least, yes, I have talked about this character, this build so many times, but for those who haven't seen the other videos, yes, we are using all in on the Adagio combo with Eternal Hunger, which is just going to allow us to consistently draw through our deck, making sure that we're getting the action points needed because we are going to have such a higher cost in the deck itself, and just churning through, making sure that we're seeing those pieces. So hopefully we can get the metallization live in terms of the number of stacks we need by turn 5. And with that character overview out of the way, again, a lot of min-maxing that we could ultimately do here, getting all the rib cages to get even more HP to stack up the maximum amount of shields to make Shelter Strike even stronger, I think is a really big win here. And then, of course, I want to do some more testing with the various neutral cards that we can get in just terms of how can we get more damage on the off turns with Maribell instead of being on the all-in one-off combo. Now, that, of course, brings us to the showcase here at the very end and just talking through some of the turns. We are going to use Family Head, and then just full disclaimer for the sake of this being a showcase, I am doing 8 of 9 just to get ourselves the draw. But again, they have all the stats, they have all the damage, they have all the damage reduction, all the tankiness, all that stuff, right? Increase 50 by, HP by 50. So in terms of the damage potential, right, this is still going to be for full value. And otherwise, again, I'm not going to sit here and reset. If we don't crit, we don't crit. I just want to go talk through the turns and showcase where it all comes together. Now, we do have a Eternal Hunger in our hand already, plus an Adagio to put it back on top. So this is a pretty good start for what we want to see. Now, on our first cycle, it's all about just getting our upgrades out of our deck. So we are going to get rid of these 2 cards in particular. Love to see that. So we are going to get a ton of extra resources on this one turn. We are going to go into our Adagio here to put the 2 Eternal Hungers back on top. We are going to go into Metal Extraction, which is going to get value for playing more skill cards. And we are going to get those Eternals back. We are just going to put them back on top again for the next following turn. And then just use what other upgrades that we were able to find. Now, if we wanted to, we could G-Cord something on top to keep 1 Eternal in hand. But for the sake of this, I just want to go through and make sure we have all of them. Any type of retain cards, we're just going to hold in our hand. And then, you know, we don't have any shield, so Shelter Strike's not going to do anything this turn. We could use our draw here to go deeper again with our 1 effect, because we do need Amir to pop up for our ego skill, but I want to make sure that we're holding off for a turn until we get the most value out of it. So we're going to see if we can draw into. We are going to use Metal Extraction to force a cycle here so that our next Nia's Curiosity can hopefully find us another Adagio. which again is going to start this loop again for us. So this is going to be a great turn of just cycling things back, making sure we're drawing through our entire deck in a turn. So again, we do need to burn a skill here to make sure that Amir's ability does pop up, which is going to go back into the Eternal Hunger and set us up nicely for the following turn. Now, I could have used the Soul Rip here just for the extra draw, or I guess we're going to because we do get the Metal Extraction into the double here again. I don't think we're going to have anything else that we can really get value out of here. We are going to use Mute Accent because we do have the heal ability live for the Soul Rip, and otherwise just, you know, hold our hand where it is. Now, this Relentless Endurance, again, just being great as a retain option, is going to make sure that we can get a shield where we really need it on a more survived turn. But unfortunately, it looks like we did not get Amir's Ego skill to pop up, so we are just going to cycle another effect here while going through our combo and trying to see what other pieces we can get. Now, keep in mind, anytime that we use a shield, we are going to eat through stacks of our metallization. So we are going to try to negate as much damage as possible here, but you'll notice that our stacks do go down. We will get our cards back on top. We have a Shelter Strike here, so we might as well use it for the damage. Didn't crit. That's fine. We're going to go into our Curiosity, see if we can get cycle back through our Adagios. Nope. Unfortunately, it looks like we are going to whip on this one. So, again, no Amir skill, so this is definitely like the low RNG side of it. But we do cycle back to it now on turn 3. And hopefully we can get our Ego skills back up pretty quickly here to get our stacks going. Again, thankfully with a more defensive build, we are still able to mitigate a lot of the damage. You will have turns like this where the boss is just not going to attack you. We do have our combo again to go into our extractions. Free up some hand size. We have another Soul Rip combo, which we could heal back up to full if we really wanted to, which we're going to go ahead and take advantage of this. Because again, when we're discarding with Adagio, these are going to go back on top. Another example of like an off turn, you know, we are getting some amount of shielding while going into double strike here, which is okay, you know. It's fine damage for us. You know, does double crit, 4K is nice. We'll have the end of turn damage from our shield. But you can start to see if we had like a third strike in more ways to generate AP, that's really where this would help come online and bring all those pieces together. Nia's Curiosity, we're going to see if we have anything left. Unfortunately, we don't, so we're going to force a discard. We're going to use Metal Extraction here for another draw. I want to be mindful of the opponent about to attack us, so we are going to just pop a shield here. And we do get ourselves into another Adagio, which is, again, going to give our loop for the Eternal Hungers. We do have a Metalize here, but we can try to do Nia's Curiosity, draw into... All right, well, we do get Adagio here, which is going to work. We could do another Shelter Strike if we really wanted to, but I am going to be mindful on just trying to get our stacks up, so... Actually, we can do that into Hovering Metal, which is also fine. Actually, you know what? Sure. Let's, for the sake of getting our damage... Oh, unfortunately, never mind. I forgot I was one turn away, so we are not going to get our damage that way. Instead, we are just going to go through and hit him this way. Again, no reset. There will be some mistakes along the way, but that would have been nice, like extra, you know, 3K or so damage. But keeping the Eternal Hungers on top was the important part, so that on the following turn we could go through and get some extra draws. So we'll see if we can find one of our Adagios or other combo pieces. Doesn't look like it, so this will just be a shield up turn for us instead. Again, only 400 shields here, and now Amir is going to be online. So at this point, we're ultimately just going to be looking for a way to... we're already at max stacks, so we're just going to try to find a turn where we get both of our Shelter Strikes in hand, and hopefully a vulnerable trigger as well of the many that we have thanks to Amir, and see if we can get, you know, big damage, or if we're going to be just shy here again. So good news is we do have one of them in our hand. We can soak the damage, so... We are going to try to just combo off here, see what pieces we can get. Ooh, double draw Metal Extraction, which is really nice. Hopefully that will get us something good. Again, we are just going to go through. I'm trying to see if there's anything else we have in our hand that could free up some space. Nope, we'll just go through. We could also mitigate all the damage with the Iron Skin here if we wanted to, because we're going to be able to stack up enough of the generation here. Unfortunately, it does not look like we get another Adagio, so... We're going to G-Cord just to try to use some cards. We're getting a discard here. Unfortunate. Okay, we do get double Shelter Strike here, which is nice. Unfortunately, not another way to loop the vulnerable that we would have wanted, or a way to get a little extra damage, but for the sake of this, it does work out enough. You see that we are going to be at our... Oh, we should be at max stacks. I guess let me burn my... I'm going to burn my skills here just to make sure we are at the highest amount. So 38, 34. It should be 4K is what the total amount is, but good enough for the sake of the showcase. Again, shield max being 2x of your health total, but we will go ahead and just use both of our Shelter Strikes here, so we get 14,000 and 28,000 back to back. Well, there you go. Even better damage than we got from the previous showcase. So there you go. 28,000, getting closer to that 30K max that we were talking about. So even not even having the max amount of shield, but a full case there at the end. So final thoughts once more, if we get back to the combatant and just talking about what we have for Maribell, is that we do get, you know, some value out of Consecrated Halo for being more of the, hey, if I want to build this out turn over turn, and we're trying to get those more off-turn damages for Maribell cycles, I think that this could be really good, but otherwise we're just trying to get the Ribcage item, again, to get even more HP and really try to push up that shield total to like 4,500 or even 5K, depending on if we get high enough. Now, of course, we could also be, you know, level 60. We could have level 60 partners and things of that nature, but we are still a little bit lower because I just don't have enough resources to take them all the way to 60. But do keep in mind that you're going to get even more HP, even more defense, even more shield generation once you push all these characters to 60. So I think from a good old showcase, that was definitely good enough. And I hope this at least got you excited to try to play Maribell a couple different ways. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you having fun with Maribell, or are you just getting started on your Vanguard journey of getting them ready for the tower? But that's going to do it all for today's video. So until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.